In this lecture, we are going to cover creating a histogram. And for that, we need to know that histogram is used for presentation of a quantitative data or numerical data. That is nothing but some numbers signifying quantity. Here is an example of a numerical data. And for the sake of convenience, we are going to use a subset of this data and create a histogram for these observations in this data. So steps we need to look for. The first step is sort the data, preferably in ascending order. Here we can see and confirm that the data has already been sorted 43, 45, so on till maximum 80. So if you look at this particular data, it's already been sorted. Actually, the entire data set is sorted. And the next is what are the active steps in creating histograms. So let me just create a subset of this data to avoid the confusion. So this is my new data for which I'm going to create a histogram. Note that I have already sorted, so I have covered the first step. The second step now is to look at creating the axis for my histogram. So as we know that there are two different axes. This is going to be y-axis and there is going to be another x-axis. But note that if you are starting classes from 0 to some values, then you can show the intersection of the two axes. But in this case, probably we are not going to start with 0, and I'm going to explain the reason why. So that's why I'm not going to show the intersection of this axis. That means they do meet somewhere at later point, but not at this point. So this is going to be my x-axis scale and this is y-axis roughly. And I need to decide what are my measures going to be, or what are my scale on the x and y-axis, and that is like the second most important task or step. So let's look at the x-axis, and for x-axis we are going to divide this entire data into some classes, or we can also call them as intervals, or if you're using Excel or other software, you also call it as bins, right? So how should we divide this data into some classes? So the general rule is you have to have like equal width of those classes, and there is like no certain answer. You just have to explore the data points within a data set, and you can start by creating interval of 0 to 5. If that doesn't work, or if that doesn't, you don't think it's appropriate, then start creating intervals or classes of 0 to 10. So those are tens and so on. You can analyze like which one is better suited for this particular data. But you have to make sure that all the class widths or all the bars of histogram would have equal width. Then, so in this case, let's just do this step. So we can see that 43 is minimum value and maximum value is 80. So we know that the range is between 43 to 80. So our graphical presentation should show detailed information of that particular range. So we need to have 43 starting somewhere here and 80 here and so on. So let me just create and start with scale of or class of 0 to 5s, but I'm not going to show all those 0 to 5s, because if I do 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 to 15 and so on, those many classes are going to be empty because I don't have data for those numbers in the given data set. So what I would do is I would start from 40 so that my minimum value get included in the first class. And then I can write that 40 to 45, 45 to 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, and 80. And note that my maximum value uh, 80, so I would need another class which would be 85. So note that my maximum value is 80, which we know that the is going to get included in the next bar of that histogram. So that's why I need to create interval from up to 80 to 85. Right? So once you have created this x-axis interval, classes or bins, then you have to do counting of the numbers, number of individuals in each class. So let's look at this first class, 40 to 45, and try counting how many numbers are going to fall within this class. So it looks like 43, 45 is not going to fall in that class, because actually this 40 to 45, that first is, that can also be written as 40 to 44. So you can see that number 40 is included, 41 is included, 42, 43, and 44. So that is class of 5, right? And the next class will start from number 45. So next will be, so that corresponds to 45 till 49 and so on. So this is most commonly used in Excel, and I think this is more accurate or less confusing, because then you don't have to decide where the border number is going to get. But I think this is clearer now. So now looking at this data point, only 43 is going to get included in this first interval. Next interval is 45 to 50. We can see that 45 is the only number that is going to get included in the second class. Then 53 will be in here. Then 56, so after 55, 56, 57, 50, 56, 56, 57, 58, those will be till that class. So you just have to write those number 56, and since you have the same number of data points appearing twice, same data appearing twice, that means you have two different data points of the same value. So you just stack them over one another, just like the dot plots. Then 57 and 58. 60 to 65, so this is actually 60 to 64, and we can see there is no data point which can be in this bar of histogram. So we are going to keep it blank. Then from 65 to 70, 1, 2, and that is it, right? So that's going to be 66, Let me just write it below so we can determine the height, which is the last step. So that is 66, 67. That is it. For 70 to 75, we can look at these two numbers because those are actually 70 to 74. So write those numbers in here, 73 and 74. Similarly, 79 is going to fall in this class, and that is it. 80 is going to be in the next column in here. So, and since you have two different data points, you just stack them one over other. Now the last step of finalizing this histogram is creating a y-axis, or actually giving some frequency measure to the y-axis, and that you are going to determine based on number of individuals in each class. In each class. So you can see the first class includes only one value. So you can give that height as 1, and that is going to demonstrate all these heights of 1 values. Then second measurement would be 2. That indicates that any of these are going to have two data points in their bar. So just approximately see that these are in the range of 2s, and so on. So you can create 3s and 4s, and if you have more data points as a height, just create 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how much frequency of individuals you have in each of these classes. Once you have noted that, then you finalize your bars. So that is going to be your first bar of histogram, second bar, third bar, and the fourth bar. Notice that you don't have any values in this particular class. Then again, height of 2s, and that is how your histogram looks like, right? You have to note that depending on the class you select, here we have selected class of 5s, class of 5s, that means 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and so on. Depending on the selection of class, your histogram is going to change, right? It's going to look different. So just try and see which scale particularly is suitable, which is giving you more information or the information you desire. And this is an iterative process, so just give it a try and see what works for you.